Hey everyone, we're going to take a quick break and talk about our sponsors for the month, AMP Agency. AMP is a full-service digital marketing agency that specializes in tour, rental, and destination marketing.
We would not have sponsors on the show if we could not vouch for them ourselves. AMP Agency does a bunch of stuff for Destiny Water Adventures personally. I 100% vouch for this guy. I've handed them over to other companies in the past before they officially became a sponsor, and they have had nothing but great things to say. If you guys are doing your own marketing and doing a piss poor job of it, do yourselves a favor. Hand yourselves over to AMP Agency, specifically Steve Edwards, their CEO, will call you personally and have a great conversation with you about what you guys need to do for your marketing.
Listen, guys, they do pretty much everything in digital marketing. Website development, maintenance, Google AdWords, PPC, graphic design, social media management, SEO, and a myriad of other things. When you choose a marketing company, it's so important to choose a company that knows your industry. And AMP Agency knows activity marketing, especially water sports and tours. They got a promo going for Awkward Watersport Guy listeners for their managed websites. Use promo code Awkward Podcast when you go to amp.agency. Again, that's amp.agency, promo code Awkward Podcast. You get 3 months free and get started with AMP Agency. All right, guys, let's get back to the show.
So for those of you guys that don't know, I've been, and some of you guys do because we actually had partners. I've been working on a boat test, a NASBA approved boater safety education test that allows you to get your boating license. Currently only in the state of Florida, but we're going to be rolling that out state by state as we get approval to work in each of those different markets. But right now, we're focused on the Florida market, and we're getting ready to start, getting some partnerships going. If you're not aware, the customers born after January 1st, 1988 have to have a boater safety certificate, temporary or lifetime, depending on how you want to apply that. I'm assuming most operators probably know that. We've been working on it for a long time, and I'm really excited to finally roll out. We're live today, and you guys that were with us before we had to shut down for a period. You guys will be getting calls back from us to get the correct links back on your sites and get those partnerships going again. And not to just come straight out swinging, but that's what we're doing. If your guys are not signed up and you're offering, and you are a qualified livery in the state of Florida, we want to get with you, get you guys signed up, and we can talk about that one-on-one as far as what we're going to be providing and doing. But I'm literally like 20 minutes away out of the news of being told that we could go live, because it was in true Kevin fashion, a dramatic.
Let's take a couple steps back because...
Sure, whatever you want to do.
All right, so it took you a long time. Now, the reason why it takes a long time, because there's a long process to it. Walk us through what it takes to actually start a company like this.
Patience.
There's not many companies. There's maybe 4 boater test companies in the state of Florida, maybe 5. There's not many because it takes so long to get approved, but... What does that process entail?
So for us, we sort of reverse engineered it. I was really focused, as I always am, on the operator side and getting the temporary certificate out to getting it in the hands of operators, right? Having one-on-one conversations like we do on the show, figuring out best practices, such and so forth. So we focused on a temporary certificate. Your standard 26 question, 15 to 20 minute test. You take it till you fail, or take it till you pass, rather. You can take it as many times as you want to. So we worked with FWC on that for about 6 months. And so that was not in coordination with NASBA. That was just us working with the FWC, and we rolled that out, went live. And then we got a call from FWC Division Boating Waterways saying that we had to shut down. And so we went through a lot of this. The problem with us is no one had ever really reversed engineered it. No one had ever started with the TC and then worked backwards to the lifetime. Most people were focused on lifetime and then knocking down state by state, because the temporary certificate is technically not NASBLA approved. The TC is not NASBLA approved, but your lifetime has to have lifetime approval, and then the temporary certificate is based off of that lifetime criteria in the section that applies to the state's specific needs. So when we got done with that, we went live, they called us, told us we had to get NASBLA certified. And then that process started. A couple things happened this year with SB 606, with education and safety being at the forefront of the Florida Senate regarding boater safety. There was some new language that they wanted to see in the test, because we were first out of the gate getting into the TC. Like, technically our test is going to, and the other companies are grandfathered in, and they have time to get their curriculum updated. But right now, I believe, and I could be wrong on this, so don't take my word 100% at value, but they weren't even releasing this stuff to the public yet. So they got us this massive packet of all of the standards that they wanted to see on the lifetime test. And then they had an additional set of standards that was not readily made to available, that specifically had to do with things like, there's a new rule, for example, that says if you get into like 1 or 2 boating, sorry, I'm trying to remember all the stuff off the top of my head, but if you have 1 or 2 accidents, I can't remember, if you have like a criminal misdemeanor or you've gotten in trouble boating, you have to take mandatory education. You have to take that. So there's new things that they've added to, NASBLA's added to the lifetime across the country, and then the state has wanted to add clarification to. So the process by getting all that stuff done, I mean, some of it was just like, you could look this stuff up online and like, sort of like, okay, figure out what you needed. But this new set of standards, there was really nothing to go by. It was just like standard A or standard 7, section 1, standard B, section 2, such and so forth. And then we basically had to create that content from scratch. So the back and forth between NASBLA and then eventually the state was just, it was a lot, because, NASBLA is like a pretty small organization. They're responsible for educating every state in the country on the best practices of education and safety on not just Florida waterways, but as I said, this is all waterways. And as I've said like a million times, just even in the state of Florida, like the needs of where we're at versus the needs of what happens even in South Florida, or even the needs of what happened in the needs of like the Florida Keys versus Miami, 2 wildly different markets. So imagine that spread across. You have lakes, you have rivers, you have different parts of the coast. And so there's so much that they have to do. And there's such a heavy workload for the guys in those offices. And I'm annoying. Like, I don't stop. Yeah, I call them every day. I email them every day. There was at one point, I literally called everybody. Like, I couldn't get an answer about something. So I called everybody in the directory of NASBLA. Everyone, and left a voicemail. Very next day, I get a call back. Yeah. They're like, "Hey, is this Kevin?" And I'm like, "Absolutely." They're like, "You called everybody in NASBLA?" I was like, "Yeah, I did." I'm like, "You guys weren't." No one was answering me, so I needed an answer. And but to their credit, once we sort of like got bumped up in that big stack of stuff to do, they were very communicative, and but it was a really long process. And I don't say this to be like, oh yeah, if you want to, I'm just saying, if you want to get involved in the boat testing game, it's like, good luck, man, because I thought it was going to be, like, oh man, 6 months, Florida, like,
it's just like when you wanted to start an OTA, right? Like,
I gave up on that real fast. Yeah.
Well, I want to know more. So
sure.
We're switching Trip Shock. We're using another boater test service. We're switching probably today over to take my boat test. There's a lot of advantages to your service opposed to other ones. I mean, not to mention that the other ones are not even, I don't know if the other ones are even based in Florida. I know one's, based outside of the country, and then one's, I think, based in the Northeast, Texas. They're owned by a private equity company. But this is a Florida livery operator that has created a test. And I really think that's something special to note, because you are going to, you see it firsthand, like you see the issues firsthand in Florida on our waterways, and you're able to continually improve the test. And I think you mentioned something the other day about, the evolution of your boater's test to include local waterways in some of the educational aspect. Now, maybe that's not something you do now, but you mentioned something about that. Talk about like kind of where you see this evolving, because everyone, I'm not going to say everyone can make a test because you had to go through all those hoops, but essentially the tests are similar in a lot of ways. So why should livery operators use your test?
Because we're going to give you the highest commissions.
Well, we'll talk about commissions in a second, but I kind of want to know, other than commissions, because that is probably going to be the main reason people want to switch over to you. But like, what are you going to be doing different, since you are a Florida livery? Like, how are you going to use that as an advantage? Are you tired of spending countless hours managing your water sport and boat rental reservations manually? Is your current system outdated or doesn't provide the necessary features that your business requires? Hi, I'm Greg Fisher, the CEO of WaveRes, an online reservation software built by operators for operators. With our system, you can offer 24/7 online booking to your customers, allowing them to book and pay for their rentals at their convenience. You can also send SMS notifications to your customers, keeping them updated on their reservation status and any changes that may occur. Custom options and dynamic pricing enable you to offer tailored packages to your customers, helping you stand out from your competitor. Plus, our system integrates with companies like Werewolf Digital Waivers and Trip Shock, streamlining your operations and ensuring a seamless booking experience for your customers. Our software is the best choice for water sport and boat tour operators, as it is designed to cater specifically to your needs. So why waste any more time on manual reservation management? Try WaveRes today and take your business to the next level. For a limited time, mention this ad and receive a $100 credit when you sign up. Check out waveres.com for more info or to schedule a free demo. Now let's get back to the show.
Yeah, so back in the day when we used to offer the paper test, they used to just give them like the answers. They'd literally just give them like, there would be a total of, it was like 40 or 50 questions, and they had it, and then they would be surprised with 26 of those, right? So they give them all 50 questions, and then they give them the answer to those 50, and then you take the test, and it wasn't open book, but you take the test, and you had to kind of go by, I remember this, that, and here's a correct question. So when I first did that, I was like, not on my jet skis. How we're doing that? No way. I sat down and I wrote content based around what I was seeing on my docks and our waterways, and then I gave them context insofar as to why this was important, and more so how to apply these lessons in this content in real time as it pertained to where we were at. Like that piece of it is so important. And also the equipment that you're putting them on, right? So if you're giving somebody like a high horsepower machine versus a low horsepower pontoon boat, or they're operating in flats in the back of the Florida Keys, or they're operating in sandbars in Miami, or they're operating in some lake in Okeechobee, or they're at Crab Island. Like all of those things, the geography and what piece of equipment that they're getting put on is super important. So it's still randomized, right? Like we still have to go by the state and what they want. So they're still going to get a randomized 26 question test that meets the state requirement. What we would also like to do is figure out some tailored content to the major markets and even the smaller ones, if that's what we need to do, that works for their environment and that works for their equipment needs. So this isn't going to be something we have like tomorrow, because unfortunately we've already had to create a bunch of original content around the lifetime. But moving forward in the future, and look, and I'm just spitballing here, but I would like it to be like a plug and play type thing where this could be like an elective, for the operator, because some operators are like, my guys are down there, my guys are going over everything with them. Like, I don't need any more, content as far as like the paper test goes, which I disagree with. And that's just me. I want to have all the education. I want to have everybody know exactly what they need to do, and I want to reinforce it on the docks, right? But some guys might be like, hey, I just want them to take the standard question. They get here, they don't take it on their way here, blah, 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 blah. It takes up a lot of time. Look, I understand that. So if that's not something you want to have and you just want to give them the state information, fantastic.
Well, another thing too, Kevin, when you sign up as a livery operator, you could choose your destination. And then if there's any supplementary content that you've uploaded for that destination, like we have those safety videos in Okaloosa County. So that could be just a supplementary piece of content that gets sent after they finish the test or something like that. And I think that's a way to curate and differentiate yourself from the other tests that are just basically giving a test and nothing else, but you can provide supplementary content. That's interesting. And it makes you different. Especially being in Florida, you have the ability to do things like that because that'd be your number one focus. Okay, so let's talk about price and commission, because you're taking the route of a little more expensive test, but bigger commissions for the operator. And before you say anything, we've had discussions in the past about what is the value of a digital boater's test. And just for those that don't understand the evolution of this, it started off as a paper test for, I think, $3 that the state charges. The operator, I think, gets $1 of that. State takes $2. And then you see these digital tests come into play, and I think they started off around like $7 or $8. I think most of them are now at $10. They're now at $10. They started at 10. They started at 10. Okay, I wasn't sure if they started a little bit less. I thought it was like $8.99 or something. But so it's been like that for a few years. And I mean, I've been part of the commission program for another boater's test, and I was getting $1 for each test. And honestly, I did it more because it made sense, because it was just part of the transaction. Give them the boater's test, make it a little easier on the operator. And I really didn't think anything of that commission. I get a check for like, $1,000 a year or something. It was kind of meaningless. But now, with the increase in commission, now TripCheck has like a viable ancillary revenue channel. And a lot of operators do now, because it makes a lot of sense. Like, who wants to participate in a program where there's really no big incentive to do it, other than, it decreases the check-in time because they have the test already done. But that financial incentive helps you go that extra mile to implement it throughout all of your, your checkout channels and everything like that. But going back, tell us about, why you've decided to start off at a little higher price point.
Yeah. So, I mean, at the end of the day, if we want to roll out something that is more comprehensive as it applies to our market, then if we're going to have a better test, then we're going to have to charge more, because there's costs associated with all of this stuff, right? There's costs associated with creating content, creating a more robust test, creating more vibrant, rich content. And at the end of the day, if we want to give our customers the best possible experience. Like, this is, again, something I've said 1,000 times. Like, the UX does not begin when they come to your location. It doesn't end when they get in their car and drive away. The experience starts once they land on your website, once they call you on the phone, and then it continues post-transaction when you're following up, petitioning for reviews. I believe that every step in that process should 100% be optimized for a great user experience and for an optimized operator flow, right? Fair Harbor, Wave Res, everything you want to have seamless and work great. And that's exactly what we are trying to do. Have the best product, have more conversions, right? Because January 1st, 1988 is great. But what we would love to see, and what I love to see when customers are getting on my equipment, is even if you're born before that date, I still want you to have that education. So if we can increase conversions without having government get involved, and we can create a better test that prepares the operator for what they're actually about to experience, then all of this stuff is going to be time, money, effort, and ultimately there's a financial incentive for the operator, which we need. We need less insurance products. We need more education products. And if we're going to have insurance products, they should be your coverage or assurance products. You should be making that money. And if you're going to have an education product, you should be making a larger piece of that. Because we all know it's the jet skis, the boat. Those of us, at least, who are scaled know that the jet skis and the boats and all that get eaten up by insurance, by rent, by labor, by marketing. And at the end of the day, it's like if you have a 15% to 20% bottom line net profit business, like, you're doing pretty good. Right, so all these other products, somebody said something, I said, if I could charge for breathable air, I would. Because all of these bottom line, all of this stuff contributes to your bottom line. So why, and this has always been my way of thinking, listen to 130 episodes. At Destiny Water Adventures, I've always wanted to be the best. You know, when trust me, these guys, when we're going through the test, and I'm like, I want to add this, I want to add that. Stephen Ilya had to claw me back from calling up Nadler and being like, how can we add this? How can we add that? They're like, we need to get approval so we can work in Florida. Because I'm like, I want a robust, interactive, I want to have all of the bells and whistles and offer the best product that humanly possible. So at the end of the day, why would we take less commission, an inferior educational tool, and not make as much money and not give the best experience to our customers as possible?
So cost, what was the number?
I think we landed at 15. And then the commission to the operator is $5. It's the highest commission in the marketplace.
I'm gonna add something to that, because I've talked to operators about the $15 and there's some mixed reviews on that. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you, it does, $15 for a test. The reason why you think that that's a lot is because you're used to $3 or you're used to 10. Yeah. You're not used to 15. It's just like when I tried to get boaters or multi-passenger vessels to charge for infants. They were just giving them for free, but they took up a space on the boat. For the longest time, they gave them for free. And then when I mentioned, why don't you charge $5 or $10? And everyone said, no, our customers would hate that. They would run for the hills. They'd go to my competitor. And what do you know? Most of those operators are charging $5, $10 for infants right now. And there is no problem whatsoever. Same with trip protection. Same with protection. Every single thing
going there.
Is that they're like, no one will ever pay $75 to protect their equipment. They do. No one will ever do trip protection. They do. And this is just a recurring situation that we just go through.
And if we're being 100% transparent, I think we're coming under the mark a little bit, right?
$15.
I still, we're still low.
I think the lifetime
is 40.
Yeah.
The lifetime is 40. And it's like these concerns about. So I wanted to address it because I wasn't going to address it in the group. I was just too irritated by it. But like this, like sort of like hemming and hawing, like, oh, should we use like a damage protection service? Like, oh, should we use like a trip protection service? Like, it's going to be so great. Like that we're just like it. Look, I need you to like take off your operator hat for a second and put on your thinking cap for a second here. Think about this. If they were just refunding people on your behalf and they weren't getting a take rate to cover that plus profit, they wouldn't be in business. They wouldn't be in business long, right? So it's like all of these things, and then it's so small, right? It's such a small, like it's a test, right? On the trip protection thing, like realistically, if you had to eat, $3,000 in returns or cancellations or whatever, and then it ended up being a bust on the take rate on the trip protection, and it was like $2,500 or $2,000. It's not gonna be like it's zero. It's not like no one's not gonna take you up on the deal. You've tested something. You have tested a product or a service that might potentially be profitable. But if you're not testing the product, and this is what I actually wanted to really talk about today before we got into like the soft sell for Kevin's new boat test, but it does tie in, right? Because the rub on that is they want the jet ski, they want the boat, and what you're discounting is you're thinking that like maybe these people are looking like this as like a cumbersome, oh man, more money for damage, more money for trip protection, more money for boat, for education. You are 100% missing the idea that trip protection gives them peace of mind. That's why people buy it. Exactly. Damage protection gives people peace of mind. That's why they buy it. Boater safety tests and education give people peace of mind. That's something that they're scared to do. They could be first timers. They might need refreshing. They very well might be.
It's also convenience.
100%.
You got to think trip protection is convenience. Your kids get sick last minute. They get sun poisoning on the beach, and you just spent $600 to go snorkeling. Now you can cancel last minute. Damage, you're a new boater and you're unsure of the waterways, and you feel like you might ram into something, and you want to have it's convenience of peace of mind. So don't worry about the cost, because the take rate, it's kind of funny because trip protection on Trip Shock, we have tried different price points. We've tried 5%, we've tried 15%, we've tried 10%. We've really settled in 10 to 12% seems to give us the best take rate and the most revenue possible on it. But just to add to your point, Kevin, I when in that comment thread, it's a little frustrating because I've done all the numbers. I've talked to folks at Arrival who sell these trip protection products, and I sat with them and I told them that we do it ourselves. I told them our process, and they had nothing negative to say. Obviously they don't want to tell us that, we don't need them because they're salespeople. But at the end of the day, they knew that we already do it ourselves and we're making money, and they can't help us.
Well,
the conversation changes like, well, if you have anybody else that would need our service,
sure.
I'm like, they don't need your service because they could do it themselves. What they're selling really is that they're selling peace of mind for you, that you don't have to deal with it. Like, you can focus on your business and we can handle all this for you. You don't got to deal with it. And maybe for some of you, that's fine. But knowing how easy it is, knowing the breakage, knowing the numbers, this shouldn't be difficult. There's no cost to implement it. If you're using a reservation software, it's simply adding an option that takes a few minutes. These are the things that they don't tell you because they're trying to sell you the service. And I would say for big organizations, enterprise operations, big water parks, I can see the reason for adding the service because they don't want to deal with all the claims, all the people calling. But for a majority of our listeners, this is something you do yourself. You listen to Kevin and I, because we have a lot of data and experience. We can tell you what the percentages are, and you will make a lot more money. Don't give them the breakage. Keep that money.
No one realizes that this is a value add, right? So you are adding value. So I think in the mind of the operator, what happens is when they start looking at some of this stuff, they're looking at from their vantage point, not the user. And honestly, this is where you guys get all of your information, and it's all anecdotal. You are anecdotally speaking. You have no metrics to back up what you're saying. It's just what you think, how they feel. Not like you've sent out reports or done research or like looked all this stuff up. You just think. And so it's something I love to say to my partner. I always say, do you think or do you know? Because when you start off with that preface, I think, and because you don't like insurance. Guess what? Neither do I. Hate insurance. But they purchase it. You hate cancellations. You don't even want to think about people canceling within your cancellation window. Lost money. You don't want to think about it. Same thing with the boat test. You don't want to sit through any more red tape or forms or anything else. But for them, we are adding value to their experience. It very well could be something they like. And if they do, you're going to have a high take rate on it. And that's all it is. And if they don't, if they are you and they feel the same way, then they're not going to buy it. But if you don't offer it, you're never going to know, because we think the boat test is worth $3 because that's what we used to say back in the day. Well, I'll tell you who didn't think it was worth $3, the FWC, which is why they got rid of the paper test and they're pushing over to online because it was too cumbersome for them.
I do think, Kevin, that Boaters Test will probably settle even above $15, especially as you add more value. It's not a lot of money. It really isn't in the large scheme of things. And maybe someone listening feels differently, but I'm telling you, for the convenience, for $15, that is still that's a bargain. When you're spending $500-$600 to rent a boat, I mean, it is a small amount. But again, you're selling convenience. They don't got to sit there in a crowd of people at a check-in booth on a hot summer day. They can do it at the convenience of their home. I mean, to me, $15 sounds reasonable. And I don't believe that this is a product that people go on Google and search to save $5. If you're thinking about that, it's just not going to happen. So I think that if you're concerned about the price, I think we've relieved your concerns about it, because if you're adding trip protection, damage protection, all these add-ons that we talk about and preach on the show, then this shouldn't even be an issue. And just to give you some numbers, if you have 10 rental boats and you implement Boaters Test, and I'm thinking about a 30% take rate on this. If I'm below or above, let me know, Kevin. But at a 30% take, at a 30% take rate at $5 commission per rental with 10 boats, I'm thinking about about 2,000 rentals a year. You make $3,000. So Kevin said that the take rate's even higher than that. So $3,000 for just doing that. And I have a presentation that I'm going to be doing at a safety meeting, and I'm going to be talking about, different add-ons and things, just based on what we're talking about now. But Kevin, the last thing is like implementing. So, implementing this is actually extremely easy now with cookies and tracking and things like that. So walk us through like what that, how to implement and track it.
Yeah, 100%. So all you have to do is just sign up. Like if you don't have somebody on your team that can get the links onto your site and in your confirmation and through SMS, we can set all that up for you. And then you'll also get a monthly report, just like you would for your marketing, that shows how many tests you sold, what your commissions were, And all of it's just like anything else will be tracked. And I don't see anybody doing this either. I'm sure after this podcast, they're probably going to go, oh, we better. Yeah. But it's pretty standard fare. You should be knowing how much you're making. Do direct deposit. Like, will all be very seamless. This will be very easy. Again, if you don't have somebody on your team, all you have to do is give us a login to WordPress. We'll go into the back end, add the links, add it to your confirmation on your Fair Harbor side, and it's done and done. Like, Steve Edwards is my partner on this, who runs AMP Agency. He's a great tech guy, and he's got an entire team, and eventually we will probably have our entire team aside from that. But we're bootstrapping right now. We're just getting started. But yeah, if all you got to do is say, hey, we want to switch, we want higher commissions, we want a better test, and we can take it all.
Yeah, but it's just a link though, right?
It's really easy.
Just switch out a link.
Switching a link.
Yeah,
we're going to start with you today.
So I just want to give a couple tips because we've been doing this for 2 years, and I like to test and optimize. And the funny thing is that when we first started, we were just sending emails out, and once we started including the link, actually we have a whole new system we built for this. If you select the option that you want to get a boater's test, like we actually email you and we text you a separate link. So we go a little bit above and beyond for it. But when we started texting them the link, had a separate text message, our conversions doubled. So if you think just putting it in your confirmation email is enough, it's not. You have to send them a link. And I also put in there, I encourage everyone, even though it's only required for after January 1st, 1988, I also mentioned that it's good that even if you're a new boater, to take the test as well. And surprisingly, we had a lot of people take the test still that even because they're not familiar with the waterways.
Yep, we saw the same thing, and so we're absolutely doing the same thing. Right, same thing. January 1st, 1988. However, and this is why we saw a higher take rate than 30%. I think it was closer to somewhere like 50%, 60%, because a lot of people aren't even aware. Because how many times do you have people show up at your location and they're like, "What? I need a boater's test." And don't get me wrong, it's getting better because we are employing automations and SMS text and everything like that. But it's like, if you also include that, hey, you may want to do this if you're new to boating, and people are like, oh, yeah, I've never rented a boat. Even though I don't have to, I want to know a little bit about this before I do. I'm one of those. I'm a prepper, man. I'm prepared on everything. So I would probably be one of those guys that honestly, if I got there and I didn't know what I was doing, I'd be like, well, I'm going to take the test. I want to at least have a little bit of an understanding before I get on the water. And this is not something that's like just, I think is like a good idea. Going through this process with FWC and NASBA, it's what they both want. Because the demographics show that people that aren't taking the test, it's the older crowd that doesn't meet the requirement to take the test, are responsible for about half the accidents. I'm not saying that like, oh, it's, people renting boats that never took the test and the test will prevent an accident. But it is another layer of sort of insulation between them and not understanding something that was either shown on video, related to them on the docks. They're prepping for it the entire way. And again, from the moment they book the experience to the end, we want to keep people safe. And we're going to be rolling out a lot of different stuff. Like I said, we haven't even been able to have a meeting about what we want to do and where we want to start and how we want to, where we want to focus, because it's been difficult. I go to these events, even my own, and I can't really talk about it because we're not ready to go live. And it's just kind of like, we have a contract sort of. But they're asking that we don't do it because we'll be in violation of that contract. So it was a lot. So going to these events and, that's been a challenging part because I'm just like, I'm so passionate about this thing and this project and getting this off the ground and getting it into people's hands and not being able to tell them about it or sell it, man, has just been like, I'm so excited. So yeah, today's definitely a good day. It's what you take every damn annoying email and all the crap that we go through is sort of like that 5 minutes where you've scored the winning shot or made the touchdown or whatever, and you're like, oh, that's what that last almost 2 years it was for that.
And
so until the next
I want to take my Boat Test Yeti mug.
Yeah, man. I mean, my wife has got a Cricut and a little sublimation printer that she does. So hell yeah, man. We're gonna be like swag is. Yeah, man. We got it all covered, man. Like we'll have swag. We'll have, I might gonna take my boat test tattoo. We'll see. I don't know. God.
All right. So, well, we're coming to the end, but man, again, Kevin, congrats. Thanks for sticking it through. It's hard, and you're getting something that is exclusive in some right, because there's only a very small handful of companies that are doing this in the state. So I mean, it's kind of worth the wait sometimes to go through these processes, knowing that there's not 1,000 competitors out there. So that's a yeah, I wish ResTech was the same way. You had to go through approval processes, so there's not 100 options.
It was challenging, but yeah, if anybody has any questions or wants to partner with us at the moment, you can just hit me at kevin@destinywateradventures.com, and you can call me at 305-393-6465. Call me at 3 o'clock in the morning if you want to partner up. I will pick up the phone and we will get you signed up.
Nice. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. Make sure to check out our Facebook group if you haven't, Watersport and Tour Operators, and keep it awkward.